To order. Welcome to meeting number 22 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Agriculture and Agri-Food. Pursuant to Standing Order 81.5 and the order of reference of Tuesday, February 16, 2021, the committee is undertaking its study of the supplementary estimates C 2020-2021. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of January 25th, 2021, and therefore members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. Proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. So you are aware, the webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind all participants to this meeting that screenshots or taking photo of your screen is not permitted.
To make sure that the meeting runs smoothly, I would like to point out a number of rules. Before speaking, please wait for me to call on you. If you are on video conference, click on your microphone to deactivate your mute and so that you can be heard. Microphones will be operated by participants in the room. Please address your comments to the chair, and when you do not have the floor, please mute your microphone.
At 4 p.m. Eastern Time today. And I'd like to ask the committee members if we have an unanimous consent to begin the meeting so that we can hear from the minister and we can suspend after 20 minutes of bells to provide ample time for everyone to cast their votes. If that's agreeable by the members, we shall proceed in that fashion. So do I have commitment to do that? We'll go through the first 20 minutes of bells and then break for the votes. Is that agreeable by everyone? Okay. Are we good? All good? Okay, so we'll go with that, and we'll continue until there's only 10 minutes left on the bells. I'd like now to welcome our witness, l'Honorable Marie-Claude Bibeau, Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food. Bienvenue, Ministre Bibeau, avec nous pour nous parler des SOP, des supplémentaires.
Welcome, Minister, to talk about the supplementary estimates. We're very happy that you're with us today.
Of course, we have the officials, Canadian Food Inspection Agency, Ms. Colleen Barnes. Welcome, Ms. Barnes. And also from the Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food, Mr. Chris Forbes, Deputy Minister. Welcome, Mr. Forbes, again to our committee. And Christine Walker, Assistant Deputy Minister, Corporate Management Branch. And with that, Minister, we'll give you 7.5 minutes or so to do your opening statement. Alors, allez-y, Madame la Ministre.
Please go ahead, Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm very happy to be here with you today. I'd like to point out that Colleen will soon be retiring, so I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of all of us to thank her for her excellent services and wish her a wonderful retirement. I would also like to thank committee members for their commitment to this sector. Your study on food processing capacity in the sector is really coming at a good time, and I'm looking forward to reading it. Here, I'm going to present the supplementary budget at your request. It totals $470 million. Most of that funding, $468 million, will be earmarked for direct payments to dairy producers. We are in the second year of payments under the program. We paid out $339 million last year. We will be paying $468 million this year and $469 million next year, as well as $468 the following year. We are fulfilling our commitments to fully and equitably compensate Canadian dairy producers for the repercussions of our trade agreements with Europe and with the TPP. Over 80% of Canadian dairy producers have already received their second payment.
And we are also determined to move forward with compensation for our food processors. After, we will come back with compensation for the impacts of CUSMA. Furthermore, as demonstrated in our recent trade agreement with the United Kingdom, we have committed to no new concessions on supply management in future negotiations. The supplementary estimates also include an extra $34.2 million to help farmers cover the costs of mandatory isolation for temporary foreign workers until March 31st. The current program provides agricultural producers with up to $1,500 for each temporary foreign worker to employ, for each worker they employ to cover and reimburse eligible costs incurred during the mandatory 14-day isolation period as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Nous sommes également prêts à aider.
We are also ready to help producers take on the additional costs associated with new border measures. Our goal is to help Canadian farmers to have the workers they need this year. We also need to keep the workers safe and to protect Canadians and our own food security. Workers have already begun arriving in the country. We are already doing much better than last year. We are continuing to work with employers, provinces, and territories to make sure that foreign temporary workers can reach our farms. Lastly, as part of these supplementary estimates, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada is going to transfer $30 million to Indigenous Services Canada to improve access to food for Indigenous communities. With that additional funding, the department budget for this year is going to be about $3.5 billion.
Table the government's response to the committee's report on enhancing business risk management program. This report is timely and critical for the long-term success of Canada's agriculture and agri-food sector. We fully support the committee's recommendations on making our BRM programs more user-friendly, bankable, and predictable, and more accessible to underrepresented groups, including the next generation of farmers. And we fully support the recommendation to remove the reference margin limit from agri-stability. As you know, I have submitted a proposal to provinces and territories to remove the reference margin limit and increase the compensation rate from 70 to 80%. Taken together, these changes could increase the overall amount agri-stability pays out to farmers by up to 50%. We have widespread support across Canada and across sectors for these changes. But for them to be put in place, we need the support of the large majority of the provinces as well. So I'm urging my PD colleagues, especially those in the prairies, to embrace these improvements as an important first step to reforming our BRM program. As we look ahead, we want to ensure that agri-stability continues to drive the relaunch of our economy. Already, the signs are positive. Our department is forecasting record farm income for both 2020 and 2021. Net cash income is expected to have posted an increase of more than 20% in 2020, thanks largely to strong grain receipts. And it's expected to rise another 7% for the coming year. Of course, as we know, there have been challenges in certain sectors, particularly cattle and horticultural producers whose income fell due to plant closures and worker shortages. Last year, despite the challenges of the global pandemic, Canadian agri-food and seafood exports increased by 10.4%, reaching nearly $74 billion. This brings us close to achieving our target of $75 billion in agri-food and seafood exports by 2025.
We are continuing to diversify trade in strategic markets around the world. And Mr. Chairman, we are continuing to work in partnership with farmers to make sure that their farms can remain economically, environmentally, and socially sustainable. Thank you. I would be happy to talk to you about all these issues. Thank you. Thank you for the update, Minister. We will begin with the first round.
Start with Ms. Rood. Go ahead, Ms. Rood, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for appearing here today. Minister, your recent announcement seemed to limit food security to food banks, but food security encompasses much more. Food security and food sovereignty goes to the ability of food producers and processors to get food from the field, greenhouse, barn, or feedlot to our grocery store shelves and coolers. For example, social distancing restrictions have severely reduced the capacity of beef and pork processors, which has led to backlogs of livestock for producers. Producers have struggled to find adequate feed and space to accommodate the backlog on their livestock being processed. Processors have struggled to find labor due to the processing in a COVID environment. One independent Canadian processor in Saskatchewan was unable to obtain any funding support from your department, while hundreds of thousands of dollars went to processors that are headquartered in the United States and Brazil. More than 90% of beef processing in Canada is controlled by two foreign-based companies with very large processing plants, and a greater number of smaller plants would offer some flexibility when the larger plants are shut down. Minister, my question is, what are you doing to support Canadian-based meat processors to increase processing capacity and flexibility, especially for smaller plants who could offer that flexibility for producers?
Thank you for the question. And actually, there's a lot of questions into it. So I would like to start by making the difference between emergency programs to help everyone facing COVID. So from those who have to go to the food banks, and you know that we have bought for $50 million of food surpluses to send it to food banks, in addition to the $200 million that have been put in place, has been made available to food banks. For the beef sector, the beef, I acknowledge that we depend a lot on a few big processing facilities. And this is, COVID has shown us what are the strengths of our sector, it has also showed the weaknesses. And this is something that we have noted, that we depend a lot on big processing facilities. And this is why you've seen in the fall economic statement that we have made strengthening our regional food supply chain as a priority. So this is something that I'm working on, and I'm having conversation with the industry to better understand how we can support better the food processing facilities in the different regions. You also know that we have put programs in place to support these processing facility, to put in place the right measures to make their working environment safer. And we have done the same for the farms as well. And through the business risk management Agri-Recovery, we have also made available $125 million for provinces to open up the program. And this is what some of them has made, particularly in the prairies with the set-aside program. This money comes from our Agri-Recovery program.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, fruit and vegetable producers still don't have certainty as to whether or not they can bring an adequate number of farm workers to Canada to work in greenhouses, fields, and orchards. Producers were told the workers they brought up until March 15th were exempted from the hotel quarantine requirements, but I'm hearing from workers bound for the Maritimes or Western Canada that they're being forced to quarantine in Toronto or Montreal before proceeding to their farms in the Maritimes or Western Canada. And producers are still uncertain about the quarantine requirements for workers entering Canada after March 15th. So, Minister, I'm wondering if you will offer producers certainty today about international farm workers so Canadian food sovereignty and our broader food security for Canadians can be assured for this growing season.
Yes, I would like to reassure our producers that we're working extremely hard to make all the temporary foreign workers we need to arrive in Canada timely and safely. Actually, all of those who came to, we are in advance in terms of number if we compare to last year, and last year COVID wasn't started yet, and we have learned a lot from last year in terms of immigration and then work permit processes. So we are trying to streamline it and to be more digital to make it easier. We have strengthened the sanitary measures. So as you know, now the workers have to do a test, a COVID-19 test before they board, and to make sure that they don't have COVID. And now when they land, they also have a second test, and then they proceed directly to their farm. We are having discussions with the provinces and with the organizations such as Farm, for example, and these organizations who are supporting a big number of workers to see what's the best procedure. But I really want to reassure our producers that we will be announcing soon. I'm finalizing all the details with my colleague, Minister Qualtrough and Minister Mendicino and Minister Haidu as well. So we are finalizing the process right now with the provinces and these organizations. You will have all the details very soon, but I want to reassure everyone that we will make sure it goes smoothly and it doesn't bring any additional cost to neither the producers or the workers.
Minister, you make a point that am I finished, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, you got 5 seconds.
Okay, thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Rood. Merci, Madame la Ministre. And now Mr. Lewis for 6 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here. And you know what? Thanks for the opening round of questions, because in the opening remarks you mentioned temporary farm workers and how all levels of government need to work together, and that's how we started off the questions. And so that's how important it is. How we need to work together to help farmers, keep workers safe. You mentioned protecting Canadians, keeping our food supply safe, and as you can see, that this time of year, those issues are bringing workers over safely are front of mind. So I know that last year we put in measures to help with the arrival of foreign temporary workers as soon as the pandemic hit, and I can assure you that the financial support provided by the federal government was welcome. Some of the farmers in my riding in Kitchener-Conestoga consider the individuals that arrive year after year as their family. They refer to them as their family, and I'm sure that's throughout our country. And these workers are part of our communities, and I know everyone is doing what needs to be done to keep people safe. So in the supplementary budget, there's an amount, I believe it's $34.2 million to extend the mandatory isolation support for temporary farm workers. So could you share with us, Minister, whatever details you can about that program and the reason behind those investments?
Yes, thank you. I think this program was extremely important. In the beginning, we announced $50 million in support of the producers and the employers of temporary foreign workers, so they can have $1,500 per worker to cover for additional costs related to the 14-day isolation period. And I think it was welcome. And when we ran out of funds, and because the act on the Quarantine Act has been prolonged, made longer, then we are committed to continue supporting our farmers as long as it will be mandatory to do the 14-day isolation period. So this is why we have put an additional $34 million on the table to make sure that we can go till the end of the year, but it is our intention to continue as long as it's mandatory.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to touch topics because I only have a few minutes here. Something that's important to me, and I know that you feel the same way, is the importance of hearing from our next generation of agriculture workers, our young farmers. I'm honored to have met, and I'm sure so many of our colleagues have met some of these bright, young, inspiring minds. And as Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, we've seen that you've taken up the cause of young people in our sector with a lot of interest. I know that you've formed a youth council and you're investing in a youth employment and skills strategy. So I was wondering if you can talk about that youth strategy, what kind of funds have been invested, and the importance of having young agriculture sector voices at the table and on the farms.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Actually, when I entered into this position 2 years ago already, I noticed that the leaders or the people representing the different associations were experienced men mainly. So I thought I should, as the first female Minister of Agriculture in Canada, I would have a role to play to encourage them to bring more women and young farmers around their decision-making table. And I wanted to lead by example by creating the Youth Council. And I can't tell you how impressed I am with these young leaders. They very soon they got organized. They are already working on a strategic plan. It's wonderful to work with them. Concerning the youth program. Actually, we have increased the financing last year and still this year in a significant way to support all our young people who are going through a tough time because of COVID. So last year we were able to provide agricultural jobs and how should I say, not only, well, 1,400 good jobs in the agricultural sector for those young people who are really interested in making agriculture their career. So this is something that I'm very excited about, and because we know we have to encourage and to make all the work related to agriculture more visible and recognized. So I think this is it's a good program to face labor shortage, but also to get more young people in the sector.
Well, I appreciate the efforts, and they have a lot to offer. And we've had these discussions in committee, and both how we can help them on their farms, and even in processing, and how we can get them involved in food sciences as well, which is quite, there's good programs here in my region. In the time I had left, I wanted to ask, in our proposed budget, the government's helping with nutrition gaps and food security, and specifically I'm referring to the transfer of $30 million to the Indigenous Services Canada to help increase food supply for Indigenous peoples. Could you expand on that in the time we have left?
Yes, you will remember that we first announced $100 million to food banks, and we have been working with 5 major networks who have, partners all across the country, including in the north and in our Indigenous communities. But with the second round of $100 million, we have decided that it could be even more efficient if we partner with Indigenous services. And then this is why we have transferred $30 million to the Department of Indigenous Services, because they also have a very strong network, and we thought it could be more efficient.
Merci, Madame la Ministre. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. And now we'll go to Monsieur Perron pour 6 minutes. Allez-y, Monsieur Perron.
Mr. Perron, 6 minutes, please go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Minister, first of all, thank you for being here with us. I would like to begin by thank you for yesterday on C216. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank all my colleagues on the committee for their support. This shows how serious you are about protecting supply management and to make no new concessions. But let's go back to the past. In your statements, I see that a large amount of the money we'll be voting for today will be there, but processors have been forgotten. You always speak about wanting to compensate poultry and egg sectors, and we've heard numbers, but we haven't heard deadlines. When it comes to processors, you would like to compensate them too, but they haven't received anything for their losses under CETA and under the TPP. In fact, they've recently had a campaign on this. They've campaigned publicly. Can you reassure them? Yes, of course. Here's my game plan. We've announced compensation for dairy producers. There was $250 million in program investment, plus 170, and that came to 170 billion. Producers have received their second payments, at least most of them have, in recent weeks. They know exactly how much they're going to receive this year, the following year, and the year that follows. So I would say that this is for the first 2 agreements. The next stage is to start up programs for poultry and egg producers. We know the amounts. It's 191 million, 691 million for those 2 agreements. As they have asked, we are focusing on investment support and assistance for marketing. The next stage will be processors. In fact, the work has already begun. We are well aware and that COVID has taken up our resources to a remarkable extent, human and financial. So yes, we're lagging behind somewhat, but we certainly haven't forgotten our processors. They've had an initial $100 million. I do want to reassure them that they have not been forgotten. That's the next stage. And then we'll start again for compensation for losses under COSMA. So you can't give us an idea of your timetable. You've told us in what order you'll be taking measures and which measures you'll be taking, but there's no timetable? No, unfortunately. It's very tempting, but I don't want to give you a timetable yet. I can't. But it's certainly, these measures are certainly in the works. Well, people do want to have an idea. In your statement, you also spoke of investments you made during COVID to help processors. I'd like to talk about the emergency processing fund. Many businesses who lacked funding, who had in fact applied to the program and who had begun making investments and then were finally told there's no money left and you're not eligible, or you're not eligible rather. So I didn't see any more funding added to that program. It would have been an excellent opportunity. The program already exists. So an injection of funds would be useful in helping people modernize their setup. Yes, in fact, we did add 10 million. So the fund has gone from 67.5 million to 77.5 million. This was an internal transfer of funds. It's not new money in the supplementary estimates, and that's why you're not seeing it. But $10 million has been added to that fund to give it an injection. Yes, there was a lot of drawdown on that program, but the main priority was to establish measures that would protect the health of workers. All applications were processed. The second goal was broader. It was to increase processing capacity or to organize it somehow differently. We weren't able to fund that yet, but everything that was related to worker safety was done. Companies that invested resources thinking they would have government support, have you anything to give them some hope today? I do have specific cases in mind, and in fact, I've submitted some to your office. But some businesses have been caught out. As I said to a colleague in English a few moments ago, COVID showed us to what extent our food supply program, process, system, as it were, is strong and resilient, but it's also helped us to identify weaknesses in it, and our regional chains in some areas, especially when it comes to beef, are sometimes less strong, and that's why last fall's budget identified a need to strengthen regional supply chains as a priority. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Perron. Mr. McGregor, 6 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair, and welcome back to our committee, Minister Bibeau. I'm really glad to hear your comments in support of our committee's report on the BRMs. What I will say is that the full report and its recommendations are a very faithful representation of the testimony that we heard at committee. So we are very much hopeful to see some action. Now, recommendation 15 did recommend that, the Government of Canada implement a statutory deemed trust. And that, of course, follows in 2 unanimous reports from the previous Parliament. Your department was very kind enough to follow up on some questions I had asked you last year. And they mentioned that it was indicated in that any future policy consideration would require compelling and significant evidence of widespread harm. So first of all, the government already recognizes the need for agricultural producers to have access to financial protection through the super priority provisions that already exist in the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. But fresh fruit and vegetable producers, they have always told us that that existing provision doesn't effectively protect them. So if the government's already recognizing that there is a need for agricultural sectors to have this protection without requiring a demonstration, why have we not yet seen any action from your government on putting in place a mechanism that would actually provide the same kind of protection to the fresh fruit and vegetable sectors?
Thank you. Well, once again, there are already some tools available to protect the fresh produce industry in case if they have a client who, because of bankruptcy, are not paying them. So there's the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act and the Safe Food for Canadians regulation. And through these, there are processes that are available for our producers to address. And we have been working, the department has been working quite a bit with the industry. And what we see is that it represents the losses that are related to such a situation represent less than 0.1%, not 1%, but 0.1% of the revenues. And when I meet with the industry, with the horticulture sector, they're talking to me about labor. They're talking to me about business risk management. These are really their priorities. And this is why I put a lot of effort in meeting, in addressing their priorities. And so it's something that we are always open to work with them, but we need more data to make it happen. And we can be creative and look at different options. But even for them, what they are talking to me about, it's never PACA. It's always temporary labor and BRM.
Well, I find that interesting, Minister, because every time we've had the CPMA before our committee, they've brought up PACA. But that aside, I understand your comments on that. One thing I just hope you consider is that they do want to have that kind of reciprocity with the United States to have that, preferential position put back in place. Now, you mentioned labor, and some of my colleagues have already been referring to the temporary foreign worker program and so on. Now, this is a perennial problem. It keeps on coming up before our committee. And I realize the struggles that the sector has gone through, and indeed the government of Canada, in trying to get adequate supply to meet our needs. What I want to know, Minister, is what kind of a long-term vision does your government have in trying to address this? We've had representatives from UFCW appear before our committee, and they really want to see more of a commitment from the federal government to work with labor and with industry to try and source a little bit more homegrown talent. So I guess I just want to have a vision 5-10 years from now. Where's the government of Canada going to go with a strategy that's going to start solving these problems that keep on coming up before our committee?
Yes, the labor shortage was there before COVID, and it will still be there after COVID. So we are working on different streams. Immigration is one, and we want to make our foreign workers, migrant workers program more efficient. This is one thing. Investing in automation as well is another way to face this situation, and also trying to encourage Canadians to get more interested in this sector. And if COVID has done one thing good, is that it had made Canadians realize how the food workers are in the large way, from farmers to food processors, to scientists. They are essential workers, and I think we value them. They have realized that they should be much more valued. So finding different strategy to get Canadians interested in this sector. So
and just quickly to their recommendation about that working group that set up between the federal government, labor, and industry. Any comments on that, on their suggestion on that?
I think it's interesting. I'll be pleased to look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Always open to collaboration.
Thank you. Thank you. Merci, Madame la Ministre. So we have about 12 minutes left. So I think it's a good place to break because we won't cut anybody off. So I understand the Minister is going to come back and finish her hour of commitment to us. And if that's the case, and so we can log off and then come back right after the vote announcement as soon as possible so we can get as much as we can with the Minister and with the officials. Okay, so I'll suspend the meeting as of now. Thank you.
and we will resume the meeting. We are now moving to our second round of questions. Mr. Dave Epp.
You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to split my time with my colleague, MP Lehoux. Minister, it's good to see you again. And the last time we had a chance to interact, we talked about the carbon tax and its impact on our farm community. And we talked about the figures that came out, that the charges were between $210 and $819 per farm, which are fairly low, and those were the average cost reflected at the federal backstop of $50 a ton. I do note that at our last meeting, we had our colleague Philip Lawrence here talking about his bill C-206, which would exempt or further exempt some carbon costs on some farm fuels. And so I do also note for the record that the Liberal Party voted against that bill. But if it's a minor cost, perhaps it's understandable. But I wonder if I could ask then, why would the government consider a fairly expensive and bureaucratic rebate program if the costs of the average farmer are so small?
Thank you. So we want to make the difference. Well, first, I will say that the pricing pollution is a very important tool for us to meet our targets of reducing.
Excusez, Madame la Ministre, je pense qu'on n'a pas de l'interprétation ne marche pas, fonctionne pas.
I'm sorry, the interpretation did not seem to be working. No, there it is. Mr. Epp's sound is not very good. Perhaps we could send a headset to Mr. Epp.
Might have to be.
I'll have my staff look into one then.
Sure. Okay. So did everybody understand the question from Mr. Epp, though? Is that all good? Can we proceed with the minister's reply? I think we can. Okay, go ahead. Allez-y, Madame la Ministre.
Please go ahead, Minister.
So I wanted to say first that the price on pollution is a very important tool for us as a country to meet our goals and to do our fair share to protect our environment and fight against climate change. And when we have done all the calculation with the data provided by the industry and the provinces, it was strictly based on the price and pollution applied to grain drying. And we know that we are being we have announced a significant increase on the price and pollution. And we also acknowledge that all the technology for our farmers to get better equipped in terms of energy efficient equipment is not necessarily already available. So this is why we have committed to new rebates for on-farm fuel use, and also from the $165 million Agricultural Clean Technology Fund, we will make grain drying and barn heating priorities in terms of research, innovation, and support to farmers for them to be able to afford these new energy efficient technologies.
Thank you, Minister. This morning, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture announced that they had hired Dr. Alan Mussel from Agri-Food Economic Systems to look into the cost, actually, of this carbon tax on our farm community and the cost of mitigating it. They're incurring some considerable expense in doing that because they're not able to source the information adequately from AAFC. Would you suggest that farmers' money is being wasted?
Mr. Epp, I guess we're having a problem with interpretation. Monsieur, why?
C'est ça, je veux pas couper Monsieur Epp, mais là,
I don't want to cut off Mr. Epp, but the interpretation wasn't working. So, thank you.
I have not had the issue with this headset and other settings.
Yeah, for some reason they can't translate. They did so. I guess the communication doesn't go through the interpreters. I think that's the issue because Monsieur Perron said he couldn't hear it. So, because of Bluetooth, apparently that's what they're telling us. So, okay. So, Monsieur Perron, you're okay. So he can, Madame Ministre can finish that. Okay, continue. Vous avez entendu la question, Madame la Ministre?
Did you hear the question, Minister? Please go ahead.
Hopefully, it's not AAFC who's the right department to gather these data. But I know that the committee will be studying the issue around Bill C-206. So we will be interested in getting data from all the different organizations or group who will be investigating or studying the subject.
Thank you. I'll turn the rest of my time over to my colleague, Mr. Lehoux.
Okay, thank you. Allez-y, Monsieur Lehoux.
Please go ahead, Mr. Liu. Thank you, Mr. Rep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Minister, welcome. I would just like some details, if I may. You said that you had increased the budget by from 77 to 87 million. Did that money come from the overall budget? Where did it come from exactly? I imagine that transferring 10 million is significant. I would refer that question to Christine, the Assistant Deputy Minister who's in charge of finance. I know that it came from a variety of sources. Or perhaps, Minister, you could just provide the committee with details of where the money came from. It is a technical issue, and I would like the answer in writing. Yes, of course. You can put the question to the Assistant Deputy Minister. Thank you. Now, with respect to compensation for poultry and egg producers, you said that you were about to announce how that is going to roll out on the ground. I think producers are really looking forward to knowing. They are somewhat concerned because whenever there's mention of investment or of technology, will there be more flexible benchmarks? In some programs, we have come across difficulty because of how rigid the benchmarks were. Mr. Liu, we're already past the time, so if you do have a question. Minister, can you reassure producers that there will be a more simplified process for compensation on the basis of conversations with their representatives? I am sure that access will be very good. Thank you, Minister. Ms. Bessette, 5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, rather. And thank you, Minister, for being here with us today. In the budget, we see that 468 million will be spent on direct payments to dairy producers. When I spoke to them in the Eastern Townships, they said that the program was deeply appreciated and that the payments provide genuine assistance in these difficult times. Could you tell us more about how payments will be made in the second round of payments? I have received only good comments. We had already worked with the Canadian Dairy Commission last year, who is paying out the money and who's responsible for calculations. They made absolutely sure that all dairy producers were informed they had to fill out a form, which was quite simple, and transfers went very well. 89% of producers have received their second payment, and I think we're at 92% who've submitted their applications. The very few that still haven't, that will have to do it by March 31st. The Canadian Dairy Commission and its team is calling them one by one so that everybody receives the second payment. I'll move to other sectors. On supply management, you provided some details for compensation for the poultry and egg sector. Could you please tell us where you're at for the poultry and egg sector and the processing sector? We've announced 691 million in compensation for the first two agreements, that's CETA and the CPTPP. We've had a number of conversations with representatives, quite a few. We are providing assistance for investment and marketing. We are really putting the final touches on these programs. There are some procedures that do need to be followed, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this kick off. We'll be able to make an announcement soon and open up these programs to poultry and egg producers. Thank you. In July 2020, your government submitted an application to the World Animal Health Organization to have a negligible risk status for a BSE. Where are we at with that application? I have good news. We made the application for being designated a country with a negligible risk of mad cow disease, BSE, and we have a favorable consensus. It is now up to the Council to approve the recommendation and to formally adopt it. But the recommendation from the Science Committee is positive, and Canada should be recognized as a country with negligible risk of BSE. That is excellent news for our beef, and it does open the door to more export markets. Thank you. In your opening comments, you said that the government would be proposing new measures in response to the report of our Committee on Business Risk Management. Could you please tell us where those discussions are at with the provinces? In the short term, my goal was to improve agri-stability after having spent many hours looking very carefully at all business risk management programs. I had 22 conversations with colleagues from provinces and territories, and we all agreed that agri-stability was a priority. We wanted a more stable and a generous program. The proposal that I tabled with my colleague was to remove the margin on the benchmark and to improve compensation to 80%. To implement these changes, I will need the support of 2/3 of the provinces, and the weight of the provinces is based on the number of participants in the program. In other words, I need 2 of the 3 prairie provinces to support the program. I already have support from Quebec, Ontario, BC, several Atlantic provinces. I do need 2 of the 3 prairie provinces to support this, and I continue to hope that we will find a consensus that will make it possible for us to improve the agri-stability program. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Ms. Bessette. Mr. Perron, 2.5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Minister, I'd like to come back on something broached by Mr. McGregor, financial guarantees for farmers. I'm a bit surprised to hear you say that there's no mention of this, because we often hear that it's a real need. There also seems to be on your part justifications for not going ahead because no losses are being declared, but losses are being declared. So there's a real need and a secondary advantage. This would make us wonder why you wouldn't just go ahead or propose something else. Have you been hearing about this on the ground, Mr. Perron? Because I'll be honest, you are really the only team who talks about this. I do know that the department team does have communications and conversations, but it does appear that measures already in place are in compliance with the Safe Food Act and Bankruptcies Act. And within those 2 statutes, there are sufficient mechanisms, especially given that the losses represent less than 0.1% of the total. So what fruit and vegetable growers are saying, and where they would want me to invest my energies is on the side of labor, temporary foreign workers, and business risk management, which is agri-stability. Now, when it comes to transferring family farms and the next generation of farmers, I would like to hear you on C208. What the next generation is asking us is for help. Do you have any hesitation in talking about this? No, I don't. This is a priority, and it is in our mandate letter. We want to find a solution to the problem. So this private members bill may not be the best way of going about it. And it's always difficult to move forward with a private members bill that has that is in fact a money bill. So we have a team of experts and tax experts who are really looking for the best way forward, because this is a problem we'd like to solve. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Perron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, our report on business risk management programs was tabled in the House 111 days ago, so it gives you about 9 days left to give the government response. Are you on track to delivering that?
Tomorrow.
Okay, glad to hear. That's fantastic. So that's a nice quick answer to the question. On our processing study, which we're soon going to be going over a draft report and recommendations, and I don't want to presuppose what's going to be in the report or the recommendations, but I can tell you from the public testimony that we've heard, repeated witnesses when they're talking about making a resilient processing capacity exist in Canada. And I know you were talking in response to Ms. Rood's question about the smaller and medium-sized plants, but a recurring recommendation from our witnesses has been that we need to see those firm capital investments, because those are often the biggest impediments to smaller communities getting something up and running. And so I guess my question, I mean, I know you probably can't go into much detail in what's coming in the budget, but can you offer the committee at least what your long-term vision is in terms of how we can set up some kind of a reliable fund for small-scale processors in small rural communities like mine and in your riding, really get over that initial financial hurdle and set something up? Because it just has a multiplier effect when it allows farmers to access something that can add value to their product and so
on. I would say that I'm at the beginning of the process. It has clearly been identified as a weakness that we want to work on, and it's also a shared responsibility. I've started conversation with the Minister of Agriculture in Quebec, and he's also working on it. So we'll have to find a way to see what's the best role that the Government of Canada can play. I'm really open to all suggestions, so I really look forward for your report. The solution is not obvious yet, but this is something that I want to be part of the solution.
Okay, thank you. I think that kind of wraps up my time, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. Merci, Madame la Ministre. And now we'll go to 5-minute rounds for Mr. Steinley. Go ahead, Mr. Steinley.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. And I'm going to have some yes/no answers, hopefully coming from you in a rapid-fire succession. Why would you personally think grain drying fuel is an on-farm use?
Well, I don't want to play with technical terms.
Yes or no?
And especially not in my second language.
So grain dryers, natural gas, is that an on-farm fuel use?
I'm sorry, but I don't want to play this game and play with this.
Irrigation pump. The pumps are used to irrigate in pivots and then hand moves and wheel moves for irrigation. We look at expanding irrigation in Saskatchewan. Would irrigation pump fuel be considered an on-farm fuel use?
You can continue.
Okay. Why can't the Canadian government give farmers credit for carbon sequestration that they're already doing? Or is that in the works?
There's work ongoing to see. There's a committee, a technical committee that will be put in place to analyze and see how we can put in place this offset system. And it is, as you know, under the responsibility of my colleague, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change. We are obviously collaborating with him to make sure that we bring as much data and evidence from the agricultural sector to him. But there's not much I can say yet.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. So Fertilizer Canada is a stakeholder of the Agriculture Minister, and they were not consulted on the Healthy Environment and Healthy Economy report. They said there is no scientific data to say that they should have to reach a 30% emission reduction in that report. So there's no scientific data. Where did that number come from for a 30% reduction in fertilizer production?
I would have to turn to my colleague at Environment and Climate Change.
Okay. Has your department done an economic impact analysis on how much $170 per ton carbon tax will cost Canadian producers?
Once again, it's not my department who's responsible for that. And
but you're responsible for agriculture producers across the country.
Course.
Like, you're supposed to be their advocate. So when you talk to your environment colleague, the environment minister, are you saying $170 per ton is going to have an adverse effect on agriculture producers across this country?
We are committed to study, what level of rebate we should be given to the agricultural sector for on-farm fuel. And this is something that we are looking at very seriously right now.
Thank you very much. I know you recently had a call with Secretary of State of Agriculture, Bill Sack. I'm wondering, during that phone call, did you bring up COOL? Because we know COOL is country of origin labeling, and you talked about there's going to be new border measures. Have we been prepared, and are we preparing to fight COOL once again in case it's brought up by the U.S. administration?
Yes, I did, and he reassured me that he would be respectful of our international and the agreements and the WTO rules.
But we may have to fight that again at the WTO. We've been preparing to have that fight?
We would always be prepared to defend our farmers, but he reassured me that he doesn't intend to have a fight at the WTO.
Sometimes we don't even defend them at home. I'm glad that your colleague brought up the negligible risk on BSC status. If that is granted, will you look at reviewing and repealing the SRM requirements that beef processors currently have in Canada, specific risk management? It is a very detrimental and makes our beef processors uncompetitive because they have the SRM is very difficult for them to process and then actually have it removed from their processing facilities. It was brought in 2003 because of the BSC cases.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about this piece of meat that they have to take away, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it would be a further step, but the good news is that this week we've been informed that the scientific committee of the OEE, the organization, the United Nations Organizations for Animals. I forget the term in English. Sorry.
Animals.
Yes, Colleen, maybe you can complete in English.
It's the World Organization for Animal Health.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have informed us that the committee is recommending that Canada gets the negligible risk status. So this is the first step, and we will continue to get further in the coming years.
Thank you very much. Please look at SRM after.
Thank you, Mr. Steinley. Thank you, Merci, Madame Bibeau. And now, Mr. Blois for 5 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Blois.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank our minister. It's great to see you back. I appreciate the work that you do for our agriculture stakeholders across the country. And I'll just go on record for saying, to Mr. Steinley's comments, perhaps he can sub in at the Environment Committee. I know that our minister is a strong proponent for agriculture sector across this country, but some of those questions would be better placed there. So perhaps he can find that opportunity. Minister, I just want to put 2 points on the record about the temporary foreign workers, and we've talked about this, so I won't ask the question, but I'll just say the $1,500 really means a lot to the stakeholders in my riding. I don't know who would have been developed. I suspect it was you that put some caveats in that if the emergency orders continued, that would basically continue to the next year. So I want to compliment you on that, because a lot of my producers were wondering what happens when we change years. So kudos to you. And of course, I have the largest supply managed sector east of Quebec. It is extremely important, and we were very fortunate to see the support for the dairy processors. I understand that 92% of that has already been given out through the Canadian Dairy Commission, and of course, we're working on the poultry with that, the mitigation measures there. I'm going to go a little bit. My question's a little bit different. There's a major local food movement in my area of Kings Hants, specifically in the Annapolis Valley. Individuals are looking to try to procure more local food, to be able to work with local producers, whether it be in schools and hospitals. And I know that schools and hospitals are not the role of the federal government. And I know even procurement at the federal level is not in your ministry. But are these the conversations that you're hearing, whether they be in Compton, Stansted, or elsewhere in the country? Does there seem to be a desire to want to try to support Canadian producers and procure local food? Does that resonate with you at all?
It does. It does a lot. And well, as the federal Minister of Agriculture, you know that my responsibility is around international trade, science and innovation, and support to farmers, BRM. And I'm getting really interested into local supply, because everybody's talking about that. And because of COVID, people realized how important it is. And this is why strengthening our regional food supply chain is becoming a priority to us. So I'm really consulting right now and trying to find what is the role that the federal government can play in this, in strengthening our food security through regional food supply chain. So I don't have the solution yet, but I'm very open to all your suggestions. If you want to work on it, that would actually do you, because I know you have quite a list of topics to be working on shortly. So I don't have a solution yet, but yes, this is something we are interested in. And when we as a government look at buying local, it's definitely something that we care about. We always have to be careful to make sure we respect our international trade agreement, though. But yes, we pay attention to that.
Absolutely. And again, I wasn't looking for a solution. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, but I appreciate that you're hearing that. It helps confirm what I'm hearing in my own writing. And I think that there's an opportunity to bring together elements of reducing emissions, being mindful of sustainable practices, trying to improve health outcomes, access to healthy food. It really kind of resembles some of what the principles we had in the Canadian food policy. Madame la ministre, nous connaissons l'importance de nos...
Minister, we know how important it is for our trade partner, the U.S. We know their importance to us in the agriculture sector. You've had conversations with your U.S. counterparts. Can you give us an idea of your conversations and tell us what priorities both countries share? Yes, thank you. I had a great conversation. I was the first of his counterparts whom he called. It's always great to see how important it is, how important the partnership between the U.S. and Canada is. We both highlighted how important it was to keep borders open, both during a pandemic and in general. We understand that our food systems are extremely closely intertwined, and sometimes a given food crosses the border 2 or 3 times. We talked about the fight against climate change. It's good to know the U.S. is as deeply engaged as we are in fighting climate change, in investing in research, innovation, and new technologies, and also in setting challenges and targets for itself, and seeing how we can help producers on both sides. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Blois. This concludes the first part of our meeting, the part with our minister. Thank you, Minister Bibeau, for having taken the time and for your willingness to remain with us, even with the interruption. Thank you for the updates. Thank you for all the information you have shared with committee members. Thank you for being here today. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
With the officials, that leaves us about, if I ask my 26 minutes of questions, and then we have to vote on the estimates. So with that, we'll go to our government officials, and this round of question will start with Mr. Epp. I don't know how you. I've got Mr. Epp. You think it's going to work? Oh, you have a different mask?
No, I don't yet, but I've engaged my staff to find one. So, Mr. Perron, I will extend my apologies. I will try and speak very clearly for the interpreters and hope that the Bluetooth magic does its magic. First of all, thank you to the officials for being with us today. I'm going to direct some attention to the temporary foreign worker program because that is such an integral part of my area. We are host to the largest influx of temporary foreign workers, I do believe, in Canada, in my reading and my neighbor to the west reading. First of all, and I'm going to echo Cody Blois's affirmation for the government funding for the $1,500. That is very well received, and I support that. For the employers, can I just have some basic background on the integrity of how the reporting goes to confirm that the $1,500 is used appropriately? And I'm supportive of it, but I am challenged on that from constituents, and I want to be able to speak intelligently to that, to perhaps some detractors of the program, which I support.
Thank you, Mr. Epp. Yeah, this would be, as we would normally do with a program, we would have a group of eligible expenses, which we would communicate to applicants for participating farmers. One of the big ones being the wages paid to workers over the course of the quarantine. We have then an application form where they have to verify the expenses, the amounts, obviously the limit being $1,500. And we would normally do is with programs, while we try to keep the application process light, we obviously do some post program audit and verification to make sure we're catching any systemic issues. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Our region has got kind of an influx of a host of international farm workers. Unfortunately, we have an undocumented workforce as well. And of course, many Canadians work in our sector, ag sectors as well. In this morning's Globe and Mail, Justine Hunter reported that the British Columbia government...
Mr. Epp, for some reason, we're still not getting the interpreters just notified me that the interpretation, they don't have enough quality sound to be able to interpret. So I apologize for that, but if you wish to transfer your time to one of your colleagues, you may do so.
I will transfer the remainder of my time to who's next on our list here, to Richard. Go ahead.
Okay, Monsieur Lehoux, vous pouvez continuer.
Mr. Lehoux, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll repeat my question. I don't know if it will be answered by Mr. Forbes or a colleague. Could we have more information about the 10 million? What budget did those 10 million come from? Did they come from the research budget, which was cut? No, nothing was cut. I think what we did, and I think we did discuss this with the committee during the summer. In our budget, we found some operational spending that was available because people aren't traveling. There have been all kinds of changes. So we found amounts that were not going to be spent, and we transferred them from vote 1 to vote 10. So you found 10 million in savings? Basically, yes. Thank you. Now, a question to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, Ms. Buns. The issue of reciprocal standards on our borders has been raised. We know that as some markets open up under CUSMA, what assurance will we have that there will be full compliance with reciprocal standards? I'm seeing a lot of things happening. I'm seeing a lot of things on the internet, photographs, for example, of tankers crossing. Are all controls carried out on every truck coming across the border, on every product that a loaded truck carries? We check all shipments, but we do have to do a certain amount of risk targeting. We have a variety of tools we can do to manage risks here in Canada. We can visit other countries to check their systems. We have agencies at the border, our agency people at the border who can carry out inspections. We are now stopping every truck. That doesn't mean that every dock, for example, is checked, but the shipment is checked. We also speak with importers. You can understand my question, Ms. Barnes, when we give 3.5% of our dairy production to the U.S., we want to make sure that we're not getting 8% instead of 3.5. Now, is that a budget issue or a logistics issue? Why can't we validate everything in every system? It will always be impossible to do everything and to check every single thing. But we can certainly target certain risks to make sure that all Canadian requirements are complied with by importers. Mr. Forbes, immigrant workers, I imagine that you're working with your counterpart at the Department of Immigration. A lot of producers are having significant difficulty with the red tape involved. Is there some way of eliminating some of the red tape? It is a very cumbersome system. Isn't there a way in cooperation with agriculture and immigration to lighten this red tape burden? Yes, with employment as well. The programs were reviewed a year ago. This is not our responsibility, but we are trying to make sure that our issues are well understood by our colleagues. So I do believe that we'll be seeing changes, though I don't know when they will come online. Thank you, Mr. Liu. Thank you. Mr. Drouin, 6 minutes. Please go ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am a member of the Agricultural Committee and also of the Government Operations Committee, so I would like to ask questions on these votes. I have questions on the 44,824,500 $256. This in English says contributions to assist farmers and so on. Will those amounts be spent? Are they going to be spent before the end of the fiscal year, or will it take longer? No, they will be spent this year. That is an amount to assist foreign workers with isolation when they arrive. And that would make sense because most of them are going to be here in the coming months. Is that why the amount is so high for the beginning of March? We are waiting for applications. The workers who are already here, those applications are coming in and being assessed, even for the period before the month of March. So that's where these amounts, or when these amounts will be spent. Mr. Forbes, I'm going to go down this list. I see that in the job strategy line, I see 5,064,000. Now 3.2 million is being added to that. Why is this? Are you anticipating higher demand? I'm going to ask Ms. Walker to answer that question. Merci beaucoup de la question.
When we received the funds for the program, we received them in statutory authorities. And because of the Public Health Events of National Concerns Payment Act, that act was repealed in December 2020. And so what we are doing is we're transferring the funds from the statutory authorities to our voted authorities so that they're available for spending until March 31st. So it's just simply a transfer between the statutory authorities and the voted contributions.
Okay, thank you for that. And I'm just going to go to the line on payment for the surplus food purchase program pursuant to the Public Health Events of National Concern. Authorities to date were $50 million, but the proposed, we're reducing that by $1.456 million. What's the rationale behind that?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. It's the exact same rationale. When we originally got the funds for the surplus food purchase program, they were in statutory authorities according to the act I just mentioned, and now which was repealed in December, and now we're transferring those funds into our voted contributions so that we can use them in between January and the end of March.
And I imagine it's the same rationale for the other two amounts of 13.1 and 3.2. So I'm assuming this if you're just bobbing your head, and that's great, Mr. Chair. I'll be foregoing my time for questions. They've answered all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Monsieur Drouin. Et maintenant, Monsieur Perron.
Thank you, Mr. Drouin. Mr. Perron, 6 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much to our witnesses for remaining. I would like to begin with Ms. Barnes. Ms. Barnes, you spoke about standards and controls. I'm happy to learn that there are more controls on ducks because we've had problems in the past. I met with the poultry producers of Canada who said that last year there had been an increase in exports of chicken up to 188 million kilos. When you go over 60, you can be sure that part of that import volume is illegal. There's a DNA test being perfected, which is not very difficult to put in place. Is the minister working on this? Is there a possibility of instituting that kind of testing? Yes, thank you. The work has been done with our science branch. My colleagues are testing. My colleagues in operations are seeing how we can work with CBSA and which mechanisms we can use to verify that shipments which specify reformed chicken is in fact what it says it is. There's the appearance of the shipment as well, but this test can be used. So you are saying that we can hope for the DNA test to be put in place quickly. Thank you. Thank you very much for that answer. Mr. Forbes. He's coming to see us frequently, so we're getting to know him. On the subject of temporary foreign workers, for many producers in remote regions, apparently, like Abitibi-Témiscamingue, $1,500 doesn't cover all costs. Does the minister envisage giving more support in certain circumstances, with, of course, evidence that the money has been spent in costs. For now, we have a cap on 1,500. We can always review the limits. There's also the fact that we have colleagues in some provinces who are offering producers support. So this is something that could be considered. We do have a 1,500 limit at the moment, but we can always review those limits if necessary. Thank you. A few moments ago, I spoke to the minister about the emergency fund for food processors. She said it had proved very popular and had helped companies adjust for COVID. But there was no more funding for the second round. You might have heard our exchange because you were there. Can we hope for more funds to be injected in the program for companies that had already made the investments and incurred costs? Thank you for the question. The answer is very similar. We just need to look at what funding is available internally, but we are under pressure to inject more funds. The fact that this is a popular program gives us the option of considering an extension to it, but at present I have no fresh news. Thank you. Ms. Barnes, I'll come back to you. There had apparently been problems regarding inspections under some slaughterhouses under federal jurisdiction. There can be variability depending on who is conducting the inspection. The requirements, the criteria, and zeal, if I can put it that way, can be highly variable. Do you have a policy to ensure that requirements and criteria are evenly applied? Are you aware of these issues? Of course, operational problems do come up on the ground, but I encourage stakeholders to work with my colleagues in the region to find solutions to their concerns. But I can say that I did see the brief to the committee, and I can say that consistency in inspections of slaughterhouses, especially for import, is extremely important to us. Thank you, Mr. Perron. Thank you, Ms. Barnes.
Let's go ahead, Mr. McGregor.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you to the departmental officials. Mr. Forbes, maybe I'll start with you. And I realize my question falls mostly under the purview of Transport Canada, but it has to do with Canada's grain transportation network. And we know it's quite a complex network. When we have problems in the prairies, it can be like a domino effect all the way down the line to the Port of Vancouver. And it affects my riding because when we have backlogs in the system, the waters off of my riding, which are being considered for a national marine conservation area, they end up being used as an overflow industrial parking lot for the Port of Vancouver. We have a lot of ships waiting at anchor for their turn. So there have been a lot of discussions that involve the Oceans Protection Plan and the National Anchorages Initiative. But what I'm curious though, because I'm trying to assess how well Transport Canada is doing in this, have they reached out to Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada for maybe your input on some fixes we can do in the grain transportation system in trying to make it more efficient? I'm just curious as to the status of those conversations between different ministries, different departments?
Well, thanks for that question, Mr. McGregor. I would say, yeah, we do keep in regular contact with Transport Canada and obviously all the players in the grain handling system. We talk about investment priorities, for example, at the Port of Metro Vancouver. Certainly, the grain sector's views, either directly to the Transport Department or through us, are communicated. And as you say, it is a system, and so there's a great effort to work with all the players to make sure we're on top of both the short-term and the longer-term issues.
And can you talk about any initiatives that are coming about as that? Like, where there have been conversations about maybe having a just-in-time arrival system, but this all requires a huge system about information sharing to make sure that everything is working just so. Like, can you expand a bit further on any initiatives that might be helping fix the problems that we're starting to see?
Yeah, I guess I would say I'm not going to give you any great sort of specific news on that front,
Sure.
Mr. McGregor, but I guess I would say that there's certainly, with existing infrastructure funding, there is transportation infrastructure funding run out of both the Ministry of Transport and also Infrastructure Canada, certainly efforts to find the places where bottlenecks are greatest. And as you say, that affects both the farmers and the shippers, right? Delays. And so looking to release some of those points, and we'll continue working on both near-term and long-term planning to kind of prioritize and tackle the big issues, and that includes with provinces, right? Because obviously the provinces have to be part of some of these discussions.
For sure. Thank you very much for that answer. And continuing on the subject of grain, I do notice that the Canada Grain Act is currently going through a review phase, that the consultations opened on January the 12th, and they will continue until April the 30th of this year. I'm sure you're already receiving submissions. Can you give the committee a sense of some of the major themes that are coming so far in this review of the Grain Act?
Well, so to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not reviewing the submissions as they come in, but I think we've identified in the consultation paper some of the key issues that come up, and certainly inspection services and flexibility there is one of them. I think costs of service, the support for producers to protect against bankruptcies, I think is another. So you'll see a range of issues that come up in the consultation paper, and we'll certainly we're open to other ideas, and we will publish a summary report, obviously out of those. Like, those are kind of largely online consultations, and we'll certainly publish a summary of what we've heard once the consultations are closed.
Great. Okay, thank you for that. And then as a final question, I know you and the minister have had a lot of questions about the funding that was given for the temporary foreign workers program. I mean, there's the employers can get the $1,500 to help with the self-isolation. I know funds were also provided during the pandemic to help make workplaces safer. Can you tell us a little bit about, like the success of that program? I mean, how was Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, I guess, keeping track of how the money was spent, and was the money like making sure that the desired objectives were actually being achieved? I just sort of wanted to know about the department's follow through on how the money was spent.
Well, thanks for that question. I think it'll go back a bit to one of my previous answers, but of course, in all of this, one of the key things is setting up parameters for the program, right? How you design it, what the eligible expenses are, what you're looking for kind of outcomes from the program expenditure, right? So the applicant's going to need to show us that they are, in the case, if it was the on-farm program, what kind of changes they were making to, say, housing facilities to increase spacing, right? As an example, or in a factory, what were the specific changes that were being proposed to allow for greater distancing or barriers, et cetera. And these are the kind of things that they have to lay it in their application. We assess those, and then obviously we do some, once they submit sort of evidence that they've completed the work, we also do audit after the fact to check that, that the work has been done as was laid out and was shown to us.
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Mr. McGregor, and thank you. And that will wrap up this portion of the of our question panel. And I'd like to thank Mr. Chris Forbes, Deputy Minister, once again for being here to answer those questions, and also Mrs. Christine Walker, Assistant Deputy Minister of Department of Agriculture, for being here. And from CFIA, I first of all want to wish you, Ms. Barnes, a happy retirement. I think I can speak on behalf of all the members of this committee, and really want to thank you. May I ask you how many years you've put into the department in your career, if that's not a...
It's 33.
Wow. So I think on behalf of everyone, I want to thank you for the service to our agriculture sector, and hopefully hopefully today didn't leave a bad taste. I think most people are good. Bonne retraite. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Colleen.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy traveling later.
You started when you were 7, then obviously.
So thank you so much. Okay, thanks for being here, and I'll ask the members to remain so that we can vote on the supplementary estimates. And okay, so I guess the standard questions. I will start with shall vote number 1C under Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food carry, and that's the amount of $2,067,090. So I guess we'll need
Are we going on division here, or
we can go on division? Okay. So, Madame la Greffière, do you want to record the votes?
It's agreed on division, so it's fine.
Agreed on division?
So it is carried.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And so next one, shall vote 5C under Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food carry. The amount is $310,000. Agreed?
I think it'll be on division, Mr. Chair.
On division, okay, on division, agreed. Okay, you've got that, Madame la Greffière. And the third one, shall vote 10C under Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food carry. Again, the amount is $49,563,715.
On division.
On division.
On division, okay, and carried. And I believe that's all I need to ask. Madame la Greffière, we good with that?
Yes.
And I shall present.
Yes, sorry. Go ahead, you have to agree to have the power to report back to the House.
Yes. Okay. So do you want me to report back to the House? I guess we need to vote on that.
Plead your case, Mr. Chair.
I'll do my best.
I don't think this needs to be on division. We'll let you report.
We'll let you
depending
report.
Depending who we have as a speaker, sometime it could be challenging. But no, I'm just kidding. So I'll do my best. Okay. Well, so everybody agrees on that. So that's good. Are we good, Madame la Greffière?
Yes, we're good.
Okay. So I think that's all. Unless anyone has anything to bring or questions, we'll adjourn this meeting. So have a good evening, and we shall see you. On vous reverrons tous la semaine.
And we'll see you next week.